All right, it's another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Thanks for listening. I'm Jeff Zito, streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. This week, number 2 on Apple Podcasts Music Interviews chart. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating and leave a review. You can also check out past guests and episodes online at celebrityjobber.com. Follow on IG, celebrity_jobber_podcast, and youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. Before fame. Who were these people? What did they do? My guest this week had a famous father who won an Oscar. Ed Begley Jr. from the 80s TV drama St. Elsewhere. He's got a new movie on Amazon and in theaters, Don't Tell Larry. He's an environmentalist. We'll find out about his first job and life before fame. Not to mention his big break and a pretty big environmentalist. I heard he's even taken the bus to the Oscars before. He is Ed Begley Jr., my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
You set the gold standard for your business. Your website should do the same. Wix puts you at the helm so you can enjoy the creative freedom of designing your site just the way you want. Want someone to bounce your ideas off? Talk with AI to create a beautiful site together. Whatever your business, manage it from one place and tie it all together with a personalized domain name. Gear up for success with a brand that says you best. You can do it yourself on Wix.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Zito, thanks for having me on, pal.
No, absolutely. It's been a while. I think we spoke right around the time of, was it the water car?
Yeah, that's right. That's a few years ago now, isn't it?
It was a few years ago. And is that thing still, is it still working? Is it still running for you?
No, I had an electric car that worked very well. What was the water car? Remind me more.
No, I thought it was, you were on the forefront of a vehicle that operated without gas. So maybe it was an electric car, Ed, but you had it before it was mainstream.
Right, and there was a car actually that now I'm remembering. It was also a hydrogen car that took, solar power and split water into hydrogen and oxygen, and that was being done out there at a facility in Redondo. I was promoting that car as well. Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly it. That's exactly the hydrogen economy. Oh, I used to have a friend that could talk hours about that, but it's great to have you on. And I tell you what, and you are a pretty busy guy these days. How do you keep up? How do you still stay busy these days in a business that has, what an outsider sees, has completely changed?
Well, I say yes to everything is my trick, and I work cheap, Zito, okay? That's my major, and I don't bother them for lunch. I bring my own lunch.
These are good things. I got to write this stuff down because these are good tips for anybody.
They are. Unfortunately, I'm still working at age 75. I'll be 76 in September. And I'm as shocked as anybody that I'm still working, but I'm fooling them. So please don't tell them in Hollywood.
Ed, can you tell me what, when you were first, figuring out life? Because, you got to look at where things are today, right? I got a kid that just came out of college. Life seems like it's so difficult for some of these guys. So when you put yourself in that position and you were coming out of school, were you thinking about becoming an actor? Were you thinking about show business? Were you thinking about moving into another career? What was it?
The truth is, I always wanted to be an actor from the earliest age 3 or 4. What do you want to do? I want to be an actor. I want to be a comedian, I would say, something like that, but definitely a performer because my dad did it. The truth is, Zito, if my dad had been a plumber, I'd be fitting pipes right now. I just wanted to do what he did. He seemed like a miraculous guy to play these different parts, to become these different characters. Just seemed like magic, and I wanted to do it.
So tell me what so your dad was in show business. What about your mom? What did she do for work?
She wanted to be an actress. She was a magician's assistant. She was a background artist. She, did extra work, what they call extra work or background artist work. And she wanted it, but never achieved any success like my dad. Lovely woman. And I was not raised with her, but I didn't even know she was my mother for years. I thought the woman who turned out to be my stepmother was my mother. And she passed away when I was 7, so I thought that was Mom. But then I later went to get my driver's license and saw, that things were not as I expected them to be, and found out who my real mother was and got to know her. And I'm very grateful to have had her in my life till 1998.
That's unbelievable.
Celebrity Jobber, the Celebrity Jobber podcast with Jeff Zito.
You're a young guy. You're coming out of school. Your dad's in the business, so that's you kind of got a toe in the water, if you will. You kind of know what the deal is. What kind of jobs did you have before you hit it, your big break? Did you have any kind of regular jobs, some 9-to-5 gigs outside of show business before you hit it?
I did have other work, thank God, because when I got in the union in 1967, doing a show called My Three Sons, I did one episode. I thought, that's it. I'm in, man. I'm in the union. I was waiting for the phone to ring, and I thought it was going to ring off the hook, and it did not. I didn't know how it worked at all. Getting that second job is the big trick. And so I fortunately worked something that was much more regular employment than acting. I became an assistant cameraman, the guy who pulls focus on the lens and what have you, and does other things like that, loads the film into the magazine on the camera. I did that kind of work for years. And then after my dad passed away, it's like something opened up and I began to work as an actor. And that was, I did my first job in 1967. Then in 1970, after my dad passed, I started to really work as an actor. And I've been working ever since.
And you're talking about behind the scenes kind of stuff, Ed. Have you, over your career, have you done more and more of that behind the scenes work? And what is your favorite part of behind the scenes work?
I've done some behind the scenes work early on as an assistant cameraman and did some directing in, the 2000s on NYPD Blue and liked that a lot. But the truth is I've been so busy with just acting for so long, I don't have time to do other, forms of work. And I'm very grateful for that, to still be working after 58 years in any line of work. I don't care if you're selling aluminum siding or storm doors or an actor. If you're still working after 58 years in the business, you're either very lucky or very smart. And in my case, I can promise you it's the former and not the latter.
What about your very first job, Ed? Can you think of job numero uno when you were probably, maybe in high school or before? What was your very first paycheck in this world?
My very first paycheck was working at C's Candy, a candy company in California that makes very good candy, and they have a number of different shops in different malls and what have you. And I worked there. You were kind of the guy that kept all the right kind of boxes of candy and individual pieces lined up for the women to sell there in their little C's Candy outfits. Then I worked at Orange Julius, a place called Orange Julius that might have been in your part of the country. It certainly was in California. There was an orange drink that was very popular for a while. I worked there and had, other jobs like that, putting up drywall, doing carpentry. So I'm very lucky to have had a bunch of real jobs that made me really, truly appreciate and be grateful for that wonderful employment of being an actor when that became a regular occurrence.
Can you remember was there a moment in your life, like a quote unquote big break? Was it a gradual, you've been working, for a while and then you just started, progressing from one place to the next place? Or was there a phone call or a moment, a performance, something that pretty much changed your life, the trajectory of your life forever?
Yes, it was getting a phone call My wife and I were considering selling our house. We bought a house a few years prior to this. This is 1982. We bought the house in 79. And right after escrow closed, the work slowed down to half of what it was. I went, oh, God, what have we done?
Right.
Can we make the payment? So by 1982, I was ready to list the house, put it on the market, and the phone rang. And I said to my agent, wait, slow down. What are you even saying? What is the St. Elsewhere? What does that even mean, St. Elsewhere? And he said that the show is a medical show. You're going to go read for a part of one of the regular characters on the show, Dr. Peter White. I went, great. I went in and read for it, and I didn't get it. Tito. I was so disappointed. They threw me a bone and said, you're going to play a part. If you want to do it, they're offering you the part. It just has 2 or 3 lines in the pilot, but they may write for it more if they like it. I went, okay, I didn't get the part of a regular. I'll be a 3-line, 1 episode, come and gone. Okay, but I'll do it because the script is good. The character that I wanted, Zito, was killed in the 2nd season of the show. Oh. The part I didn't want that had 2 or 3 lines became one of the most popular characters in the show. That was called Dr. Victor Ehrlich. So,
wow.
Wanted in life has never been nearly as good as what I've gotten, is my point, Zito. I'm very lucky. I've been blessed my whole life. To be born Ed Begley's son was a great gift, and the gifts just kept on coming.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
That's an incredible story, Ed, because I mean, I guess the lesson here for anyone listening is that maybe it doesn't seem like the fairy tale ending in the beginning. Maybe it seems like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess this is better than nothing, but it seems like, things do work out for a reason. And just like you are explaining, you go to read this part for St. Elsewhere, which, I mean, became one of the biggest shows, if not the biggest show in the 80s. And the character that you wanted to get ultimately ended up getting, killed off in the next season. You had maybe a 1 or 2 week job, which ended up getting you another week, and ultimately a career. How long did St. Elsewhere end up being on TV for, Ed?
It was on 6 years, and I was in all the episodes. So, that's the way it's been my whole life. It looks great on the port side of the canoe, so I'm paddling like crazy, get over the left side of the left bank. Only the current's ripping and pull me somehow to the starboard side. And finally I give up and go, okay, this is where I can't make it over there. I'm over on this side of the riverbank. And it's much better than what I thought I was doing over on the other side. It's always been better. You take your action, you do what's in front of you, and take your best shot. But sometimes there's an even better situation waiting for you where you don't expect it.
Ed, can you describe to people like me that really don't know how Hollywood works or how show business works and acting, can you kind of tell us a little bit how the world has changed for you over the last 40 or so years? Because, I mean, just like any business with technology, things have changed drastically for the better or for the worse. But could you kind of tell people that don't know much about your industry the biggest change that you see in it since you got into it versus now?
So many things have changed. I'll try to list a few of them. We used to go into an actual room with other actors and sit there for a job interview, like getting a job at, a company, what have you, I suppose, to meet the hiring outfit, the people in HR, what have you. Those are the casting people, basically. You sit in a room with Jamie Cromwell, with Bruce Davison, with people like that, Barry Bostwick, friends of mine. You'd be up in the same parts because we're tall guys that look the way we look. Now you self-submit a tape. You record on your phone. A self-tape is what they call it. And you send it in to the casting people, and they present it to the director, the producers of the show. And that's the way it works now. You do all that yourself. It used to go in the room and actually read lines to people and then get a job. My good fortune that I didn't see it all. I didn't know how lucky I was. I was Ed Begley's son. So that helps in two key ways. Number one, they're going to remember your name, not forget it, and you might get work out of it. And number two, they're going to be relaxed and comfortable. Because they go, I worked with your dad on the Philco Playhouse, and he's great. Top of page 8, Eddie. Good luck, kid. They were kind of rooting for you. So I had a tremendous advantage and didn't even know it. And things are not like that today. They're quite different.
Ed, a lot of people, and I really appreciate what you're saying about your dad. And here we are, just right after Father's Day. Maybe focus on your dad a little bit. There's a lot of guys that are and were in your position who had a successful father in the career that you're trying to be successful in, and some of those people want to forge their own path, and they don't want any help. And it seemed a little different with you. It seemed like you really admired your dad, and tell me about your father a little bit. It seemed like you had a really great relationship. You said if he was a pipe fitter, you'd been a plumber.
Exactly. And the truth is, I was one of those guys who didn't get it. I thought I wanted to forge my own path, and in many ways I did, but you can't ignore what is just simply a reality. The truth is, I was his son, I am his son, and so I finally learned to appreciate and, in fact, use those advantages that I had and not ignore them. I was going to change my name to something other than Ed Begley Jr. and really try to be more anonymous about it. And I've got to prove I can do it all my own. Why? When your parents have already dug the mine shaft out in the back of the house and what have you, and they want to show you how you extract a valuable ore from the mine, why would you not do that? It's kind of, they've done a lot of it for you if you want to be in that same business, and I did. And of course, I never have achieved the kind of incredible, status that my dad did. He was in 12 Angry Men, a great movie, and he won an Oscar for Sweet Bird of Youth. That's an incredible accomplishment. So I'm proud of what I've done, and I've done a lot of it on my own, but the door was opened for me by my father, and I was wise enough to walk through it. And then once inside the room, then you have to perform, you have to deliver, you have to do something that really catches their attention to get the job and keep the job. But I finally learned to not fight it and accept what is.
I think it's a valuable lesson. Can you tell me, maybe, is there something that stands out, a valuable lesson that your old man taught you when you were younger that has stuck with you to this day?
He taught me a little trick about hitting your mark in TV and film acting. You have to, and on stage as well, you have to land on a mark for where you're positioned on the stage in the live performance or where you are in the set for lighting and sound and many other things for camera. You have to, hit this mark. So he showed me a way to back up, 3 paces. If you've got to walk in 3 paces, just back up to 3 and count them off, and maybe put get a piece of tape from the camera department and put a pencil on the ground. A pencil taped to the ground. I know this seems crazy, but it works. And you come up, and you can feel with your foot that pencil is there, and you're not looking down on it. Sometimes people put a sandbag down, one of those little tiny sandbags that they have in the camera department, for different needs. You put that down, and your toe can feel that as you come up to it. So some little trick like that to hit your mark, he thought that would be valuable for me to know that, and he taught me that.
Celebrity Jobber, the Celebrity Jobber podcast with Jeff Zito.
75 years old, phone still ringing, still working, and new movie in theaters, Don't Tell Larry. Can you tell us a little bit about, without being a spoiler, which I know you won't, can you tell us a little bit about the film and your character?
It's a dark workplace comedy. I play the CEO. I've got a prize employee, Patty Guggenheim. She's definitely going to be given the part of the CEO. When I leave, I'm going to retire. And she's definitely the anointed one. But something happens that's quite unusual. Somebody shows up for work that I prefer to her for some very unfortunate reasons. And her life is turned upside down. And she makes the choice that puts things in a very bad spiral. And but it gets very dark, but very funny, quick.
And it's called Don't Tell Larry. Sounds like, I mean, without knowing anything more than you told me, sounds like something that could be very relatable for people who are in the workplace.
Yes, it's very relatable in that way as a workplace comedy, and it also has a great cast to deliver. The script was written by and is directed by Greg Forper and John Chimke, but Patty Guggenheim is in it as the lead, playing Susan. Kyle Kennedy plays Larry. He's so wonderful. Kenneth Mosley is Patrick. Tina Parker, who I love and know from Better Call Saul, she plays Carol. And Dot Marie Jones plays Kim. So we got a great lineup of people. Comes out on Friday, June 20th, on Amazon and Apple. Then it's also in a few theaters in L.A. Opening night, we're going to be at the Town Center 5 in Encino. If you have any friends that are there in the L.A. area, or the Royal in West L.A. on the 21st on Saturday, this very Saturday. So come join us if you're in the L.A. area. If you have friends here, tell them about it, and see it on Apple or on Amazon.
Ed, two more questions before I let you go, if you don't mind. Number one, you have been known not only as a fantastic actor for your whole career, but also as a very devout environmentalist. Can you tell me a little bit about why you have chose this thing? I mean, obviously, we should all care about the environment, but tell me a little bit about what got you so much into trying to work for the environment.
That's an easy one. I grew up in smoggy L.A., so after 20 years of that, I finally, in 1970, said, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So I started recycling. I became a vegetarian. I bought an electric car. Everything that I did was good for the environment and also good for my pocketbook because it all saved me money. And here I'll report this to you. It's important to note, besides all the bad news about the environment, here's a bit of good news. In L.A. since 1970, we have 4 times the cars, millions more people, but a fraction of the smog. We all did that. Cleaner tailpipes, cleaner power plants. People in L.A. did that, and it all worked. All the stuff we hoped would work did work. So we can attack global warming and do something about climate change. We can accomplish these things because we've already proven we can do them on a large scale with dirty air in L.A. So we have to repeat those successes, and we got to do something now, I think.
And is it true that you actually took public transportation to the Oscars or some award show? You took the bus there?
I've done that on more than one occasion. With my daughter Hayden, we've taken the subway to the Oscars, and I've ridden my bike there. It's good to promote clean technologies, I think, and stuff that actually works. So to use that opportunity of all the attention the Oscars get to promote green technology, I thought that was a worthy effort, and a lot of people responded to it.
And a final question for you, because I feel like me and you have something very similar going on at home. Can you tell me what kind of dog you have? Because I've heard that my dog's been scratching at my door for the entire time that we've been talking. I hear your dog wanting to get your attention in the background. What kind of dog you got there?
You and your listeners are very patient. I'm sorry they were barking like crazy. Some people came to the door this morning for my wife, and it took her a while to corral them. But my little dog is a part terrier, part mini pincher. She's part Shih Tzu. She's many different things. And we found her at a tow yard. My daughter's car got impounded. Sitting in the tow yard was this little black terrier mix, but she wasn't black at all. She was just covered in dirt and soot. She didn't have a tag, so we were trying to find the owners. She didn't have a chip either. We cleaned her up and put her picture on the internet. And when I walked into the house, though, and now the story begins, she responded to me in a way I've never seen a dog respond. She just ran up onto my lap and went, "Where the hell have you been? I was waiting at the tow yard for you, and here you are." So I'm in love all over again. She's a little angel in my life. In the final chapter of my life, I've got this little angel, and her name is Bunny.
I got a black Pomeranian, the same thing. I don't know what it is about these animals. They just give you something you can't get anywhere else than the love and affection that you get from a dog. You know, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it. Nothing like it at all.
Don't Tell Larry on Amazon and in theaters now. The legendary Ed Begley Jr. What an honor to speak with you, Ed, and you've been nothing but great, and I appreciate your time. Good luck with everything else, and keep on keeping on, my man.
Thank you for having me on, my friend. It's good to talk to you.
Take care, Ed. Thanks again.
Bye, see you.
There you go, the legendary Ed Begley Jr. He had some regular jobs. First one was at a candy store. He said he worked at Orange Julius, which I'm kind of familiar with. He said he hung drywall. He did a lot of jobs before acting became kind of a full-time thing for him, and he was very appreciative of those full-time jobs. He said, if it wasn't for those keeping him afloat, during some of those non-busy years, who knows? Really great story, though. I mean, from the beginning to the end, his mother, he thought it was his stepmother, but when he went to get his driver's license in California, he figured out something wasn't adding up and tracked down his real mother, his biological mom, and was able to have her in his life until she passed away back in 1998. Wow. His father, Ed Begley, legendary actor, won an Academy Award. And, so often people in show business, like the kids, they want to forge their own path. They don't want their mother or father's help. If they were big in the business before them, they, a lot of times they're like, hey, I don't want my mother or father's help. I want to do it on my own. Ed Begley Jr., he's like, why? This is a fact. I am Ed Begley Jr. I am the son of an Academy Award winner. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to use the fact that I am his son. He thought about changing his name and all that and forging his own path, which he had to. If he wasn't any good, he would have just been the son of Ed Begley. There's a lot of people in this world that have famous parents and they try to get into the same industry and you don't know who they are. And it's probably because they aren't as good as their parents. A lot of pressure, obviously. But I thought it was a really good message to anybody thinking about going into the business of their parents who may have been successful in that business, but, wanting to forge their own path and they don't want the help from their parents. Like, why not? It is what it is. So that was pretty cool. His big break, of course, when he got the phone call to be on St. Elsewhere. He was reading for a part that in the beginning was a recurring role. And that role he didn't get, but good thing he didn't get that role because that character got killed off in the second season. But they threw Ed a bone, as he said, gave him a small part. And he said, well, I'll take it. And, whatever happens, happens. 1 week led into 2 weeks, led into the next week. And he said he was on every single episode as Dr. Victor Ehrlich on the television series St. Elsewhere, 6 seasons from 1982 to 1988. Of course, an environmentalist. And as we heard at the very end, a dog lover. Found Bunny at a junkyard, the love of his life. There is definitely nothing like the love of a dog. I can tell you that for sure. This guy wanted to be an actor from the time he was a little kid because he admired his father so much. And I thought that was really cool, having him talk about his legendary dad and how he looked up to him, what he taught him. He said if his dad was a plumber, he would be a pipe fitter right now to this day. So I thought that was really, really cool. Thanks so much for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Number 2 this week on Apple Podcast Music Interviews chart. I know Ed Begley Jr. isn't a musician, but we talk to musicians, we talk to comedians, actors, actresses, famous people, find out what their life was before they hit it big. Streaming everywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating and leave a review. Past guests and episodes online at celebrityjobber.com. And you can also follow on Instagram, celebrity_jobber_podcast, and youtube.com/celebrityjobber. Everybody's got a story, and we'll hear a new one next week right here on the Celebrity Jobber podcast. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. I'm Jeff Zito.